Today I'm going to show you how to make my elevated hamburger helper style casserole from scratch, and also how I cut myself. So to start, ingredients wise, we're going to need some pasta. I like cavatappi, but you could use elbow macaroni. We're going to need some beef stock. We're going to need some beef itself. There's also a few other ingredients you'll need, but as I told you all, I cut myself with a mandolin, so I prepped these off camera to save you the time of watching me struggle with a knife. But let's also get into that story a little bit. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this so I could pay the ER bill. But I was working on a potato recipe, similar to 1,000-layer potatoes, with this brand new Japanese mandolin. As you can see, this is not when it actually happened, but I was trying to get nice, even slices. I tried the guard, and it was creating a very uneven cut from the pressure in the middle, and I must have slipped, and I wound up cutting kind of the corner of my thumb, like right in this area, a little bit of the nail also. It was pretty gnarly looking, but it's healing up great. I wanted to try to cook a new recipe now that I just have the thumb covered. Nicked my finger also, but it's getting better. Just always use the guard, people. Mandolin injuries are real. Now to start, we're going to cook the pasta. We're going to cook this to about 3 minutes less than al dente, and we're going to do this right off the bat because you want to let it cool down so you're not pouring piping hot pasta into this mixture. It's just easier that way. But once you get it to kind of malleable, right short of al dente, 3 or 4 minutes before, I'm going to throw in just a little bit of butter after I drain it. That way the pasta won't stick together. And then we're just going to let this sit here and cool as we do all the other steps. Now to start assembling the rest of this dish, we're going to get a little bit of oil into my cast iron skillet, and we're going to get some 90-10 ground beef in. I find that the more lean meat is easier in this dish because it creates much less oil and fat. And we're just going to start to really work this. Try to get this chopped up into as fine little pieces as possible. You don't want any big chunks of meat. One of these little mallet pounder things is really great for really breaking up meat into fine little pieces. But once you get them nice and broken down, let them get a little bit of color just like that. We're going to pour in a cup here of some diced white onion. We're going to mix that all together. I'm also going to add a little bit of garlic salt because I like the garlic flavor, but I don't like actually putting garlic itself into this dish. So garlic salt's a nice way to do that. You could also add garlic powder. And we're just going to mix this up, let them get a little bit translucent. I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper at this stage also. And then once they're real nice and translucent, we're going to throw in those mushrooms, and we're going to cook these until they are fairly cooked down. We're going to cook these for a little while just to get out some of the moisture and let them fully cook. That's what you're looking for. They just look like nice shrunken up cooked mushrooms. Now we're going to start to assemble the main base layer of this sauce. This is going to be a tablespoon here of tomato paste. We're going to mix that nice and thoroughly. If you want to add a little more, you can. The flavors will really intensify the more you add to it. Once we do that, though, we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons worth of all-purpose flour. This is going to help make that sauce really kind of thick and roux-like. I am using boxed chicken stock because I like it a little bit thinner, but if you want to omit the flour, you could probably use a very gelatinous stock, and it will do the same overall job. And now we're going to add the stock. I'm going to add right around 500 grams of this, which I believe is somewhere between 12 and 16 ounces. It's not a ton, but it's enough to get this nice and saucy. We're going to add in 2 good dashes of the Worcestershire sauce. Actually, 3. It looks like I added 2.5 there. And then we're going to put in right around half a cup to a cup of whole milk or cream. I used cream, but if you don't want that, you can use whole milk. Mix that up, and we're just going to let this come up to a simmer. It kind of looks like a stroganoff sauce, which is really kind of what this is in essence. But once you get to that point where it is nice, fully heated, you get a little bit of bubbles going, I'm going to turn off the heat, and we're going to add in about a tablespoon worth of sour cream. I use the smaller spoon here, so that's why I went with 2 little scoops, but it's right around a tablespoon's worth. We're going to mix that together, and that's all you need to do. This is now ready to mix with your pasta. To start that process, I'm going to get the biggest bowl I have just so you don't risk splattering everywhere, and we're going to pour that pasta right in. Give it a little bit of a shake just to break it up, but you can see that butter really helped it stay nice and separated. None of the noodles are really clumped together. And then we're going to pour that sauce right over the top. Try to not get it all over your Dutch oven, but it is very hard to pour those only holding one handle. We're going to mix in about 2 or 3 handfuls worth of shredded mozzarella. Same amount here of shredded parm. That's actually grated parm, but you could use shredded parm if you want. And we're going to mix that together. If it starts to get too thick, which this did, I'm going to add in just some kind of lukewarm water. You don't need to add pasta water here because you're not trying to make this really thick. You want it actually to loosen up. So just some lukewarm water will totally do the job. Mix that until you get the desired consistency. And now we're going to throw it into one of these ceramic casserole dishes. Very simple. Pour it directly in. This is a 9x13, I think, which handled the full pound of pasta quite well. If you're doing half portions here, you could use smaller amounts. I like to fill it up fairly to the top also, though. Now we're just going to level it out a little bit, and now we're going to coat this with some toppings. First, we're going to give it a little bit of that parm that we had, nice and grated already. This will just add a little bit of the saltiness to it. Then we're also going to hit it with some of these fried onions. I'm just pouring these right out of the bag. If you want to make your own fried onions, go right ahead, but this is not worth the time. These are just great. I crushed them up a little bit in the bag, so they're smaller pieces, but you don't need to even do that. Hit it with a little more parm, and now we're ready to throw it into the oven. This is set to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to let this cook for about 20 to 25 minutes, just until the top starts to get nice and golden brown. And there we are. You can see the onion bits got a little bit kind of browned. So one or two are maybe a little bit burnt, but nothing that is unedible. The rest of it is bubbling beautifully. Let that cool for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and now we're ready to dive into this. It's not going to be as kind of, big ziti-like. There is still a little more sauciness to this, which is the goal. So it doesn't pull out in that perfect little chunk, but look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. If you've ever made hamburger helper, cheeseburger helper, all those kind of things, you know that this is kind of what they look like, but a much more sad version. So let's get a bunch of this now out onto a plate, dive into it. This is so beautiful. The mushrooms give it kind of this umami earthy flavor. It's kind of stroganoff like. It's also a little bit kind of bolognese like with a nice little meat sauce. It's everything you love about pasta. Top it with a little more of that parm, a little more of those onions, and you're good to go. This is so easy to make. Will serve so many people. It's a big portion. Give it a try.